Zion National Park stretches across 146,000 acres of red rock canyons in southern Utah. The Virgin River cuts through sandstone cliffs that rise over 2,000 feet into the sky. Every year, more than 5 million people visit. Most follow marked trails. They photograph angels landing. They wade through the narrows. They leave with stunning memories. But there are parts of Zion you're not supposed to see. Places where trails end abruptly without explanation. Zones marked restricted with no official reason. And stories rangers share off the record. Stories that never make it into visitor brochures. Lock your doors, put on your headphones, because after this, you'll never see Zion the same way again. Mystery 1 begins in a section of the park most visitors never hear about. The Kolob Canyons area sits in the northwest corner of Zion, accessible only by a separate entrance off Interstate 15. It's quieter there, fewer crowds, longer stretches of isolation. In the spring of 2016, a backpacker named Jason Miller applied for a permit to hike the Kolob Arch Trail, a 14-mile round trip through remote wilderness. He was an experienced hiker, 32 years old, former search and rescue volunteer from Colorado. He carried a GPS tracker, a satellite phone, and submitted a detailed itinerary to park rangers. He entered the trail on May 3rd at 6:47 a.m. His GPS tracker transmitted his location every 15 minutes. For the first 4 hours, his route followed the trail exactly as planned. Then, at 10:52 a.m., his GPS signal began transmitting data that made no sense. According to the tracking log, Jason's position jumped 1.3 miles northwest in under 2 minutes, a distance impossible to cover on foot in that terrain. The signal then circled the same 200-yard radius for 37 minutes, looping in a perfect geometric pattern. At 11:29 a.m., the tracker went offline and search and rescue teams entered the area the following morning. They located Jason's last known GPS position, a clearing surrounded by juniper trees and red rock formations. His backpack was there, his water bottles untouched, his satellite phone still powered on, but displaying no outgoing call history. Jason was gone. The search expanded over the next 10 days, covering over 40 square miles. Helicopters equipped with thermal imaging found nothing. Ground teams discovered no footprints leading away from the clearing. Canine units tracked his scent to the exact spot where his backpack was found, and then lost it completely, as if he had vanished into the air. One of the search coordinators, a ranger named Tom Haverford, who had worked at Zion for over 15 years, described the scene in an internal report later obtained through a public records request. He wrote, "No evidence of struggle, no sign of animal activity, no tracks leading out. It's as if he was removed from the location rather than walking away from it." When asked to clarify what he meant by removed, Haverford declined to elaborate. He transferred out of Zion 6 months later and has not spoken publicly about the case since then. Jason Miller's disappearance was officially classified as a missing person case with no leads. The Kolob Arch Trail remains open to the public, but park officials quietly installed new signage discouraging solo hiking in that area. The GPS data showing the impossible movement patterns was noted in the case file, but never explained. And Jason's satellite phone, the one found powered on with no calls made, contained one anomaly that was documented but never released to his family. In the phone's internal log, there was a single attempted connection at 11:17 a.m., 12 minutes before the GPS tracker went offline. The attempted call was not to emergency services. It was to a number with no area code, just 7 digits. No such number format exists in any known telecommunication system. Mystery 2 takes place deeper in the park, in an area known as the Subway. It's one of Zion's most iconic locations, a section of the left fork of North Creek where water has carved the rock into smooth, tube-like formations. The hike requires a permit. Only 80 people per day are allowed in. In July 2018, a group of 4 hikers from Nevada received permits for the bottom-up route, a 9-mile trek involving wading, scrambling, and navigating slick sandstone. They were experienced canyoneers. All carried waterproof cameras, and recorded their progress. At approximately 2:15 p.m., as they approached the main subway section, one of the hikers, a woman named Carla Simmons, stopped abruptly. She later described hearing a sound that didn't fit. A low, resonant hum, almost mechanical, emanating from deeper inside the canyon. Her companions didn't hear it at first, but when they stopped talking and listened, they heard it too. A deep, vibrating tone, steady and rhythmic, like a generator running underground. There are no generators in the subway. No infrastructure, no power lines. Carla's husband, Derek, recorded a 43-second audio clip on his phone. The hum is clearly audible, oscillating between 60 and 80 hertz, a frequency typically associated with electrical equipment. He submitted the recording to park officials when they returned, asking if there was any maintenance work being conducted in the area. Park officials confirmed there was no equipment, no construction, and no personnel in the subway that day. Carla and Derek posted the audio online in a hiking forum, asking if anyone else had experienced something similar. Within days, 7 other hikers came forward. Each reported hearing the same hum in the subway, all within a 6-month period between March and August 2018. The sound always occurred in the same section of the canyon, always lasted between 30 seconds and 2 minutes, and always stopped abruptly without fading. One hiker, a geologist named Martin Ruiz, analyzed the audio file. He noted that the frequency remained unnaturally stable, showing none of the variation typical of organic or environmental sounds. He compared it to industrial machinery, but found no match in any known equipment database. Martin submitted a formal inquiry to the National Park Service, requesting access to geological survey data for the subway area. His request was denied. The stated reason was that the data was part of an ongoing internal assessment and not available for public review. When Martin pressed for clarification on what kind of assessment, he received no response. In early 2019, Carla and Derek returned to the subway with professional-grade audio recording equipment, hoping to capture the hum again. They hiked the same route, reached the same location, set up their equipment, and waited for over 4 hours. They heard nothing, but when they reviewed their recordings later, something was there. A faint vibration, below the threshold of human hearing, pulsing at regular intervals. The vibration appeared on the recording, but had been inaudible in real time. Carla described it in a follow-up forum post. "It's like something is transmitting, but not at a frequency we're meant to hear. We were standing right on top of it and didn't know it." They submitted the new recording to the Park Service. It was logged and filed. No investigation followed. The subway remains one of Zion's most popular hikes. Permits are still issued daily, but a small note was added to the trail description on the park's website in late 2019. It reads, "Hikers may occasionally experience acoustic anomalies due to natural canyon resonance. No explanation for what natural canyon resonance means. No citation of scientific studies. Just a quiet acknowledgement that something is heard, and no further comment." Mystery 3 involves a restricted area that doesn't appear on any public map. It's located off the Observation Point Trail, accessible only by a narrow, unmarked path that diverges from the main route about 2 miles in it. The area is called the Slick Rock Expanse by rangers, though that name exists only in internal park documents. In the fall of 2020, a ranger named Andrea Cole was conducting a routine patrol when she noticed fresh boot prints leading off-trail toward the restricted zone. She followed them and found 2 hikers, a couple from California, sitting on a flat expanse of white sandstone. They weren't supposed to be there. Andrea approached to escort them back to the trail. But as she got closer, she noticed something wrong. Both hikers were staring at the ground, motionless. She called out to them. Neither responded. When she reached them, she saw their hands pressed flat against the rock. Their eyes were open, but unfocused. She described their expressions later as trance-like, as if they were listening to something she couldn't hear. Andrea physically shook the woman's shoulder. The woman blinked, looked up, and asked, "How long have we been here?" Andrea checked her watch. It was 4:47 p.m. She asked when they had left the main trail. The couple said they had stopped to rest around 3 p.m. They thought they had been sitting for maybe 10 minutes. They had been there for over 90 minutes. The couple had no memory of the lost time. They remembered stepping off the trail. They remembered sitting down. And then Andrea was shaking them awake. Everything in between was gone. Andrea escorted them back to the trailhead and filed an incident report. She noted that both hikers exhibited mild disorientation and complained of headaches. She also noted something else. When she first found them on the slick rock, her radio had stopped working. Static filled the channel. The moment she led them back onto the main trail, the radio cleared. She tested the radio multiple times over the next week. It functioned perfectly in every part of the park except near the slick rock expanse. Within 50 yards of the area, the signal degraded into white noise. Andrea reported the radio malfunction to park maintenance. A technician inspected her equipment and found no defects. He suggested it might be interference from natural magnetic minerals in the rock. But when Andrea asked if anyone had tested the area for magnetic anomalies, the technician said he wasn't aware of any geological surveys being conducted there. The restricted status of the slick rock expanse was quietly reinforced. New signs were placed along the observation point trail, warning hikers to stay on marked paths. No explanation was given for why the area was off-limits. Andrea Cole no longer works at Zion. She left the Park Service in 2022. When contacted by a journalist investigating unusual park incidents, she confirmed the events but declined to speculate on their cause. She did say one thing before ending the interview. Whatever is in that area, it's not just rock. It's doing something to people. And the park knows it. History 4 centers on the Court of the Patriarchs, a trio of towering sandstone peaks named Abraham, Isaac, and Jacob. It's one of Zion's most photographed locations, easily accessible by a short trail from the main road. But at night, something changes. Park regulations prohibit hiking after dark for safety reasons, but enforcement in remote areas is minimal. In the summer of 2021, a photographer named Samuel Diaz received permission to stay after hours to capture long exposure shots of the night sky above the Court of the Patriarchs. He set up his camera just after sunset. Around 8:30 p.m., the location was quiet. No other visitors. Just the sound of wind moving through the canyon. At approximately 10:45 p.m., Samuel noticed movement near the base of the peaks. Lights, small, pale blue orbs, hovering about 15 feet above the ground. He counted 6 of them, moving independently, drifting in slow, deliberate patterns. Samuel assumed they were drones, despite the no-fly zone over the park. He shouted toward the lights, asking if someone was operating them. The lights stopped moving. They hovered in place for several seconds. Then they began to ascend. Samuel recorded video on his phone as the lights rose vertically along the cliff face, moving in perfect synchronization. They climbed over 300 feet in under 20 seconds, a rate of ascent no commercially available drone could sustain. When they reached the top of the peak, they stopped again. Then, one by one, they blinked out. Samuel reviewed his footage. The lights were clearly visible. No sound, no visible means of propulsion. Just smooth, silent movement. He reported the sighting to park rangers the next morning. He was told that drone activity had been detected in the area recently, and that enforcement patrols were being increased. But when Samuel asked if any drones had been confiscated or operators fined, the ranger said no incidents had been documented. Samuel posted his video online. It was viewed over 200,000 times before it was removed for unspecified violations of the platform's community guidelines. Samuel appealed. The appeal was denied. The video has not been re-uploaded, and the original file has since been corrupted on his phone. He retained a backup, however, and shared it with a private research group studying aerial phenomena. The group analyzed the footage and concluded that the lights exhibited flight characteristics inconsistent with known drone technology, including sustained vertical lift without visible rotors or propulsion systems. Their report was never published. The lead researcher stated that they were advised against releasing findings related to national park incidents without prior approval from federal authorities. No such approval was granted. The Court of the Patriarchs remains open to daytime visitors. Overnight photography permits are still occasionally issued, though the application now includes a clause requiring permit holders to report any unusual observations immediately to park authorities. Samuel Diaz has not returned to Zion since that night. Mystery 5 involves one of the park's most famous hikes, Angel's Landing. The trail ascends 1,488 feet through a series of steep switchbacks before reaching a narrow ridge with sheer drop-offs on both sides. It's exhilarating, dangerous, and heavily trafficked. But there's a section near the summit where people disappear. Not physically, temporarily. In the spring of 2022, a hiker named Emily Tran was ascending Angel's Landing with her brother, Kevin. They were about 200 yards from the summit, navigating the section known as Hogsback. When Kevin stopped to take a photo, Emily continued ahead. She looked back 30 seconds later, expecting to see Kevin behind her. He was gone. Emily backtracked, calling his name. Other hikers on the trail said they hadn't seen him pass. Emily reached the spot where Kevin had stopped. His phone was on the ground, still recording video. She picked it up and reviewed the footage. Kevin had filmed himself turning the camera toward the canyon, recording the view. Then the video cut to black. No warning. No indication of the phone being dropped or turned off. Just an abrupt end to the recording. Emily found Kevin 10 minutes later sitting on a rock about 50 yards down the trail, looking confused. He asked why she had left him behind. Emily said she hadn't. She had been ahead of him the whole time. Kevin insisted that Emily had walked past him and continued up the trail without responding when he called out to her. Emily said that was impossible. She had been looking for him. Neither could reconcile their versions of events. When they reviewed Kevin's phone together, they noticed something else. The video file showed a timestamp gap. The recording began at 11:14 a.m. and ended abruptly at 11:14 a.m. The file properties indicated it was 9 minutes and 43 seconds long, but only 11 seconds of footage existed. The remaining 9 minutes and 32 seconds were missing. Emily and Kevin reported the incident to park rangers, describing the time discrepancy and Kevin's temporary disorientation. The ranger, who took their statement, acknowledged that Angel's Landing had been the site of multiple similar reports over the years. He called them perceptual distortions caused by altitude, dehydration, or stress. He did not explain the missing video footage. Emily later attempted to recover the deleted portion of the video using data recovery software. The software identified the missing segment, but could not extract it. The data appeared corrupted, overwritten by a repeating pattern of binary code that specialists described as unnatural. One digital forensics expert who examined the file said the corruption looked intentional, as if something had specifically targeted that section of the recording and erased it. Emily posted about the experience on a hiking subreddit. Within hours, 14 other people commented, describing nearly identical experiences on Angel's Landing. Missing time, disorientation, companions vanishing briefly and reappearing with no memory of where they had been. All of them had occurred in the same section of the trail, all within the last 5 years. One commenter, a former park employee who requested anonymity, added, "The Park Service knows about Angel's Landing. They've known for a long time. There's a reason they installed all those chains and railings. It's not just to prevent falls." When asked what the real reason was, the commenter didn't reply. Angel's Landing remains one of Zion's most popular hikes, attracting thousands of visitors each week. Permits are now required due to overcrowding, but nowhere in the permit application or trail information is there any mention of time distortions, missing video footage, or the dozens of documented reports of disorientation in the same 200-yard section. The trail is marked as challenging due to elevation and exposure. Nothing more. Mystery 6 takes us to the deepest part of Zion, a slot canyon called the Narrows. The Virgin River flows through a gorge so narrow that in places the canyon walls are only 20 feet apart and rise over 1,000 feet straight up. It's one of the most spectacular hikes in the park, but it's also one of the most dangerous. Flash floods can occur without warning, turning the gentle river into a wall of water in minutes. In August 2023, a group of 6 hikers entered the Narrows from the top-down route, a 16-mile trek requiring an overnight permit. They were experienced canyoneers. They checked the weather forecast. Clear skies. No rain predicted. At approximately 3 p.m., they reached a section called Wall Street, where the canyon narrows to its tightest point. The walls rose vertically on both sides, blocking out most of the sunlight. One of the hikers, a man named Robert Callahan, noticed the sound of the river changing. It grew louder, faster. He looked upstream. A wall of water was coming. The group scrambled toward higher ground, but in the Narrows, there is no higher ground. The water hit them seconds later, a surge strong enough to knock 2 hikers off their feet. Robert grabbed onto a rock outcropping and pulled himself up just as the flood swept through. The water rose 6 feet in under a minute. Then, just as suddenly, it stopped. The river returned to its normal level. Robert and the others checked themselves. Everyone was accounted for, shaken, but alive. But there was a problem. The water that had just flooded the canyon was clear. Flash floods in the Narrows carry mud, debris, and sediment from upstream. The water is brown, thick, and clouded. This water had been crystal clear. Robert described it later. It was like someone turned on a faucet and then turned it off. Clean water, no debris, no logs, nothing. Just water, and then it was gone. The group hiked out immediately and reported the incident to park rangers. Rangers confirmed that no rain had occurred anywhere in the Virgin River watershed that day. No storm systems, no upstream releases from any reservoir. There was no natural explanation for a flash flood. The incident was logged as an anomalous hydrological event and referred to the United States Geological Survey for further analysis. The USGS reviewed the data and concluded that localized groundwater discharge could have caused a temporary surge. But when asked to explain why the water was clear, rather than sediment-filled, the USGS report offered no answer. Robert later spoke with a hydrologist off the record, someone who had worked in the Zion area for over 20 years. The hydrologist said, "I've seen flash floods in the Narrows dozens of times. They're always muddy, always full of debris. What you described doesn't match anything I've ever seen. It's not a flood, it's something else." When pressed on what that something else could be, the hydrologist said, "I don't know, but the first wouldn't go back there if I were you." Robert hasn't. 6 mysteries. 6 places in Zion, where reality bends just enough to notice. Jason Miller's GPS looping in impossible patterns before he vanished. The mechanical hum in the subway that appears on recordings, but doesn't match any known source. The slick rock expanse where hikers lose time and radios fail. Blue lights ascending the court of the patriarchs in perfect silence. Missing time on Angel's Landing where 9 minutes of video vanish. And crystal clear flash floods in the Narrows that defy every rule of hydrology. Some say it's coincidence, misinterpretation, natural phenomena we simply don't understand yet. Others say Zion is more than rock and water. That something beneath the surface, something old, is still active, still watching. What is undeniable is that every one of these incidents was documented, reported, filed, and quietly set aside. If you made it this far, thank you made it this far. Leave a like if one of these stories stayed with you. Tell us which mystery haunts you most and which one we should explore next. But remember, some trails aren't closed to protect you from what's out there. They're closed to protect what's out there from you.